Okay, hello, Dr. Georgiadou, Sofia. Thank you for being here today. And I'm so excited to have you and to talk about all the exciting projects that you have on your plate. But before we start, I just wanted to ask you to kindly introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes. Hi, Afarin. Can I call you Afarin?
Yes.
Okay. And please call me Sofia. I don't make my colleagues or my students use my last name. It's just a long Greek name, and I just don't make people go through all of the pronunciation of it at all. And it's a pleasure to chat with you today. And congratulations on all of your success and accomplishments. I'm just so proud of you as a colleague. So yeah, I am originally from Greece. I came to the States after doing my bachelor's in psychology in Greece, in Thessaloniki, actually my hometown. And I got my master's and my PhD at the University of Louisiana in Monroe at ULM. And I finished my PhD in 2012. And by that time, I was already working, clinically as a therapist. And over the years, I did a combination of clinical work and adjunct teaching. I moved to Houston actually after I graduated with my PhD, and I have been in Houston on and off since 2012, actually, which is, oh my goodness, it's been a few years. So since then, I've been doing a combination of supervision of students, being an internship site as a nonprofit program director, a residential treatment center for females in foster care, and doing adjunct work and doing clinical work as well. So the last 2 years, I've been teaching at the University of Houston, Clear Lake, the family therapy program there. And that's my kind of first full-time gig as a professor. And I've been on a roll since, lots of things going on.
I know your schedule is just so busy with all the amazing things that you do, and you're also a great researcher. As you know, for the audience who are watching us, listening
thank
to
you so
us.
much. Yeah, I did forget to say that, huh?
You're being humble, huh?
Yeah, just downplaying all of my work. Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I think you've been talking for 2 or 3 minutes, and it's already been so inspiring, like this just the journey that you were talking about. And not that our stories are the same, but I'm also from Iran, another country. I came to this country and I continued my education, so I know a little about the challenges that we may have
Of an international student in
yeah.
graduate school in the United
Yes.
States. Yeah.
But we should probably talk about that in another talk. So
Sure.
I'm so excited to ask you about the projects that you have, and I know that you're involved in a CMFT and COAST. So if you can tell us about what COAST is, what is your baby a CMFT? Yeah, we would love to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I got involved with COAST last year. COAST stands for Coalition of Associations for Systemic Therapy. And there is a website as well, which we can post in the description for our viewers. And it was created as a coalition of state chapters and MFT professionals from states that no longer had a state chapter associated with double MFT, as of like more recent years. So their mission is basically promoting relationship building between professionals and associations invested in relational systemic therapy. Um, the board, I am actually part of the board as of just a month ago, actually. I'm an at-large member of the board of COAST.
Congratulations.
Their board, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very excited to just be more involved, actively involved, I guess, not as just a member, but as a board member. So they have goals on multiple fronts. One of the major ones that they have highlighted for me is supporting professionals in states that do not have kind of a professional association, or their professional association might not be as active anymore. And then also supporting PhD students and master students who are coming out of school and looking for a connection, a community with other professionals that they might not necessarily find within their own state, So yeah, that's the whole goal of Post. Now, STMFT stands for the Society for the Teaching of Marriage and Family Therapy. And I that's my kind of baby that came to be I think yeah, May 2022 I
Mm,
created this Facebook group. I thought at the time I had just started my full-time position at UHCL. I felt very isolated as an academic. And so I thought, okay, I know that the American Psychological Association, they have division number 2 for, that Society for the Teaching of Psychology. Wonderful. That's a great resource, right? Of a neighbor, of a cousin in mental health that I can go to. But I couldn't find resonance when it came to like systemic therapy, teaching, the all the systemic approaches, the models. How do we go about doing that effectively? How do we train our students effectively? So all of these things were coming up as question marks for me. There was because I'm duly licensed also as a licensed professional counselor, there was also the Association of Counselor Education and Supervision, which is a division of ACA, the American Counseling Association. So I noticed that all of our mental health neighbors had some sort of organization dedicated to educators in that field. And then I was like, we do not have that
yes.
in our field. And I know our field is not, as, of course, as big as psychology. Yeah. Um, but I was like, this is essential for us to maintain our identity,
Mhm.
what makes us unique in our discipline, but also to have more targeted conversations and activities around how we train the next generation of professionals in our field.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that story. And as you know, I'm a group member on a Facebook group.
Okay.
And I really enjoy like this platform that people they can ask their questions about everything so far what I've seen, right? So I have an international student, or this is, what I'm teaching, we're asking questions about activity. And it resonates with me a lot because I had the same kind of like line of thinking
Yeah.
about when I was a student, and I was a PhD student, and I was looking on YouTube about just interviews, or all these big names that we read about, but like I wanted to see them, I wanted to like hear them, right? And I Googled them, and I couldn't find anything on YouTube or a video.
Oh,
I mean,
interesting.
I'm
Okay.
talking about recent people, right? Not.
Right.
Um, so that's why, like, when I graduated, I started like on my own YouTube channel. I started like interviewing with the expert with that same way of thinking. So I understand what you're talking. It resonates with me a lot that now you're talking about teaching. So thank you for explaining that. Tell me about some of the goals maybe that you have in mind, or the vision that you have for SCMFT.
Yeah, absolutely. So, gosh, I have great aspirations. So my vision is large, but I know it will be supported, hopefully by multiple people. It will take a village. This will not be kind of a one person, accomplishment here. But I created this community to support not only active educators of all levels, so from adjunct to professor emeritus and full professors, but also aspiring educators. You spoke about being a PhD student and like trying to find information of like the people in our field and kind of how they talk about their work. Well, I was a TA, I was a teaching assistant when I was a PhD student. There was no particular training on like pedagogy, teaching in person, outcome based teaching. There was none of that. It was like, here is a sample syllabus, go and be creative, right? And so I felt like I was kind of operating on my own accord and like trying to figure things out with my own research, going on YouTube, like you said, or looking for continuing education opportunities here and there in like the different fields, like I said, our neighboring fields. So it was very tricky, and I would love to have for our future educators a space where they can ask these questions, where they can say, I need help with this. What resources are out there, right? So STMFT responds to the needs of both aspiring educators and active educators. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, how do we teach what we teach? So what has worked well in terms of teaching practices, building community, creating safety and belonging in the classroom, and then going into the nitty gritty of MFT theories, systemic models. How do we teach that effectively? What has worked well in other classrooms? Doing research on that and seeing, what's happening. What are the students getting out of the courses and the ways we teach them, right? So scholarship of teaching, research on teaching, particularly for MFT or CFT courses, and then exchange of that informal kind of community and conversations about, this is what I do in the classroom, what do you do, right? So that's kind of my vision of what I hope this group will become. I think especially online, it takes a while for that sense of community to be created. And so no matter how inspiring my vision is, I know that people are within their capability of time or energy or other efficiencies. They do their best to connect, I know it will take a while, but I'm hoping that we will go from being, a Facebook community to a division like we did, and then a full-fledged association for MFT and CFT educators.
Mhm.
That's kind of the future that I envision for us.
As you were talking, I had so many thoughts and also a lot of emotions. I felt so excited. I tried to hide it. I don't know how successful I am.
It's
But
okay. You don't have to hide it from me.
but it's because what you're talking about, it's so missed in our field, I guess, right? So I always talk about this point that imagine how much training we have about becoming a therapist, right? In our field, obviously, it's MFT or CFD. And at the same time, we get a little bit of training about research, maybe. But as you mentioned
Sure.
about teaching, there's almost nothing, right? And it's just like expected you go and teach. So as if like it's the only requirement is like knowing the content, and we know that that is not correct, right?
Right.
In person or online. I've been privileged and lucky because I'm involved with some of our different collaborations with people in education field, applied linguistics. And I know about a little bit about the research and studies about education, pedagogy, online learning. One example that sometimes I talk about is just in most of online learning courses, we have discussion boards. And the point is like having interactive kind of like activity. And the study shows that it is not interactive, but it is not interactive at all. And it's just easy work for students, right? But we still have that because maybe it's what we are used to or what we think it's working, but it's not working. So what you're talking about, it makes a lot of sense. And again, like the second thought that came to mind was like, what if like we have even like group meetings as people in this society, not every month, maybe I don't know, every 2 months or so, and we gather and we talk about our experience and what is even like missed more or less, or that would be super cool. But thank you again for talking about that. I know that you're also, as you mentioned, you're involved in the research about students' experience, right, in the MFT field. Is that correct? And you recently got grants on that, so congratulations.
Thanks so much. I do want to, can I say just a couple more things about
Sure.
STMFT before we move on?
Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah. I mean, you don't know what, but when I say more things or not. So yeah, I completely get it. I would love, we already started having these monthly meetings within our Facebook group that are live, like we connect on Zoom. I would love to have more of those, perhaps with more targeted kind of discussions. perhaps based on, teaching practices or assignment, construction and development, course development, right? All of those things. I had to learn a lot of things from just doing my own continuing education. And that's when I started learning things like universal learning design or backwards design, right? Um, all of these things, I wish we had developed resources for PhD students nationwide to share. And perhaps across the globe as well. I don't really restrict our group to like US only, although a big chunk of our members are from the US. But I love to have that cross pollination of different people joining from different countries and talking about the same discipline and how it's taught differently across the globe. So we do have a couple of things that are in the works, I guess, under progress. And so um, there's a few things that I have talked about with our members around mentorship. Mentorship is so important for our field. I feel like there's not enough of it. So there's a couple of things that I have that I'm building towards this year. One is launching a mentoring committee. This will be people that are established in the field and they feel they're in position to give back and mentor someone who is perhaps starting out, early career faculty, adjunct faculty, PhD students, etc. And matching them one-on-one to see if they would like to continue a one-on-one mentoring relationship. And the second thing is a speed mentoring event. This is something that I have participated in as part of an APA event, and it was so rewarding. I actually ended up connecting with one of the professor's mentors that attended that event. I connected with her over the course of the year, and she actually helped me launch kind of put together all of my applications for like full-time academic positions. And she was so supportive throughout that process that, as you know, it can be quite draining to like go all of these different like interview days and campus days and all of the stuff, right? So a speed mentoring event is something that I would love to see probably next fall happen through STMFT and get a lot of interest from PhD students and adjuncts and early career faculty that would love to meet with our mentors for a short period of time. This will be like a 2-hour event. Maybe they will give 15 to 20 minutes with each mentor and get to ask them some questions and get their input. If they want to continue connecting after the event, they can. They will have their contact information. So those are two things that I have kind of in my mind, in my vision, in my plan for this year for STMFT. And we have other projects that we would love to see happen through STMFT members. And again, I'm saying we, thinking that this will be a group of people working together in community, and it won't be just me. But I would love to see a newsletter, perhaps of sorts, or a blog or something like that, coming out of our website with someone talking about their teaching experience or sharing something that has worked well in their classroom, right? Something that will benefit all of the visitors of our website under Coast, the STMFT website, all of our members, something that can be kind of a continuous source of support, information, insights, right? Then you start building your own vision, like who am I as an educator? Your teaching philosophy, right? You start evolving that. And then the second thing that I have in mind is a conference on teaching. Now, this will probably happen as like a one-day event in the beginning, right? Maybe virtual, probably. But I would love to perhaps partner with some universities and see if we can make this a physical, like in-person event. Again, ACES definitely has conferences on teaching for counselor educators. APA definitely has, they even have conferences for specific courses, like Intro to Psychology has their own conference for educators that are
Yeah,
teaching that course.
so
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, just these are some of the things I have that I would love to see happen through teamwork,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
Wow, that is so exciting. And I'm not
Right.
sure if you sleep well at night or you're thinking about all these different.
Well, they're written somewhere, so I don't need to you know,
Okay.
they don't need to go in circles in my head all the time, but they are part of my vision, you know.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned teams, so at any point, if like I will be happy if you want me, like we can talk about this. This sounds really interesting. And if you want to talk about AI, I recently talked about AI for
Oh yeah.
10 class, right? So I can talk
Right.
AI in education as well. But this is so exciting, and I'm so proud of you because you not only saw the gap and what is needed, and also, but also you address it. So that takes time, that takes energy, that takes
Sure.
um, yeah, and you're doing that, and I think that's very inspiring. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, again, this came from kind of my own experience as a former international graduate student in the States and my experience in the first years of teaching and kind of figuring things out on my own. And I would love for people to have a different experience coming into our field and wanting to educate others and train the future generation of systemic therapists. I would love for people to have a different experience, you know? Just a more supportive one. We are family therapists after all, right? We're relational therapists, so we should do better with community building
Yes,
between us, right? You
exactly.
would think that this would come natural, but I understand a lot of the challenges that come with like participating in this project, sort of starting these projects, comes from people just being burned out, underpaid, you know, overworked, just all of the problems that academicians have these days. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we are systemic thinkers, right? And sometimes we don't see that systemic way of thinking in our teaching style or pedagogy. So some of the things
Mhm.
that we should address.
Yeah.
So
So now I can talk about my research if you want.
yes, I wanted to go to that question. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I can do that. A lot. I'm about to talk about my experiences again, but and I know you said we're going to talk about your international student experience on another, and here we are talking about it again.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, so um, over the years, both as a student and as an educator and as a supervisor, actually also, I have seen our students in the traditional kind of in-person programs that are 2 to 3 years long. They go through a series of like theoretical courses and then they start their practicum. And when they start their practicum, the imposter syndrome is like off the charts. They are not sure if they're doing things correctly. They are very kind of lots of lack of confidence and anxiety, right? And some of that is totally developmentally normal and expected and appropriate. But I sensed as a student and as a supervisor and educator, there is a little bit of a disconnect here between what we do in the classroom, all the book learning and the theoretical learning, and then what actually happens in the room with the client, right? Some of that, there's a lot of wonderful colleagues that do great things. I know, for example, Diane Gayhart does simulated mixed reality simulated training at Alliance, or no, I'm sorry, not Alliance, Northridge, I think it
Yeah.
is university. Yeah. California State University, isn't
Yes.
it? I think, yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of great work that colleagues are doing in terms of active learning to bridge that gap of like transferring knowledge from the classroom to the therapy room. However, I don't see that necessarily reflected in like our accreditation standards by CMFT. There's not really emphasis. Again, we're talking here about, are we teaching effectively
Mhm.
students, right? Like not just covering the content or making sure we're talking about working with diverse populations or talking about telehealth and all of those things, right? But making sure whatever we're teaching it in a way that's transferable. The student is practicing something in the classroom and they can go and do the same thing in the room with the client. So that was kind of the impetus of my research. And I connected with a lot of colleagues over the course of the last year. We actually applied for a larger grant by the Spencer Foundation that didn't get funded, but that's okay. That happens. We ended up getting some other smaller grants to start the first phase of this research. And so we ran a survey towards students that are currently enrolled in CMFT accredited marriage and family therapy programs or couple and family therapy programs all over the US. Students had to be in practicum or currently enrolled in practicum when they were taking our survey, just so they have an idea of like, okay, I went from classroom learning to actual application of skills with a client. Yeah. And so my colleague from Ohio State University, Ashley Hicks, and I worked on this first phase of the research project together. And we were basically trying to see what are some of the gaps in the AMFT domains and common factors in family therapy that the students have identified in their learning. How effective has their education been in teaching them how to apply those skills from the classroom to the therapy room? And what we found was some interesting gaps. I can share some things if you're interested.
Of course.
I don't know how much time we have, but
I have all the time in the world. This is so interesting.
okay, thanks. That's very nice of you. So we found that approximately 1/3 of our sample, and we had about 300 students, felt that their program prepared them substantially well across all the AMFT competency domains. The ones that were the student participants felt least prepared were therapeutic intervention followed by treatment planning, which is quite interesting. Kind of lines up with what I was thinking we were lacking in. And so that's kind of the general finding. Another one in relation specifically to participants from online programs, they felt less prepared in the domains admission to treatment and legal issues and ethics, which again gives me pause. Is there something that it's not quite addressed in our online programs in those domains that we could do more effectively as educators? And then we also found some differences in race, gender, and between part-time and full-time students in the ways they felt prepared for treatment planning and case management. It seemed like students of color and female students and also part-time students felt less prepared in that domain of treatment planning. Overall, our participants, and that comes as no surprise, they reported that experiential learning and practicing skills, doing mock sessions, doing role plays, all of those things really helped them. And another thing that we found was that, and this was through kind of open-ended textual responses in our survey, our student participants felt that they were unprepared in interactions with multiple family members in the room. This could be because, when you teach in a classroom, you might not have access to I don't know, role play with multiple family members. It could be a little bit harder logistically to organize like an active learning experience with a family as a client. So I think that's something for educators to consider, like how can we mimic or emulate what types of clients our students will see and bring those client systems into the classroom. So yeah, I'm gonna stop here and just kind of see, yeah, what thoughts. I'm sure you're having some thoughts about this, all
The
of this, right?
findings, the findings so far that you have shared, they're really interesting. If it was a paper, I would just go to the discussion to see
Just to see.
what is
Yeah,
it
exactly.
like.
It's gonna be a paper soon.
Yeah, I'm
It's in the
sure.
works. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure. But the part that you were talking about, student of color, I guess you were talking about their
yeah.
experience. I was thinking, okay, does it have to do with like them feeling imposter syndrome? Does it have the power dynamic? Does it have to
Mm,
do with like that maybe their experience in the classroom? Is there any possibly discrimination even like in the classroom teaching learning
sure. Yeah,
way or what does it have to do with? That was really interesting, and the rest of it as well. So it shows that we have a lot of work to do, I guess, Sophia, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of validates like, okay, we need to have a closer look at
Yeah.
all of these patterns. And we do need to more systematically and collectively, as a profession of educators, as a body of educators, to question and challenge and um, facilitate unification of our practices here, because otherwise we're doing our students a disservice
Yeah.
by kind of doing stuff and hoping for the best, right?
Yeah.
Uh, or like doing things that have not been methodically organized and researched and validated as
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah, yeah. And because we are systemic thinkers, right? So you're talking about this education and the students' experience, and I think about, okay, at the same time, we are training them to be a therapist, and I think being a therapist is like being a thinker, right? And at the
Sure.
same time, for them being a therapist, they need to take the licensure exam. And the licensure exam is a multiple choice exam. And I sometimes, get this reaction or feedback from my students that, hey, give us some quiz or, multiple choice
Mm,
question because I want to be prepared for my exam. And we have our own way of thinking about those exams that, I know your research is not on the exam, but actually Diana Gayhart and Kevin Linus, they're doing, I think, a study on
yeah.
something about the
With
license.
very disturbing findings
Yeah.
also.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if you attended one of her presentations, but yeah, we are not doing well
Yes.
with the MFT exam either.
It's like you want to travel and your destination is something, but you're totally going to somewhere else. And then at the same time, you're
Yeah.
saying, why is it not the same place? I'm like, you're not
Yeah.
going to that same place, right?
You're not going, yeah. Or some students are going to that place, but some other students are not going to that place. And we don't know why, but that's just kind of how it is right now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The MFT exam is just its own beast, I think, that students need to be prepared for, like special preparation just for the MFT exam. I frequently will share in my classes and say, this is something that might come up as something to distinguish between in your MFT exam, right? Like this is the SOS topics from your course. So I'll give them hints sometimes. I might even do like a quizzing class just to see, kind of give them a flavor of like this is what you're up against in about 3 years from now when you're taking the exam. This is what it's gonna look like. But it's not the at the core of all the skills that I'm teaching them otherwise, right? There's a lot of with inspired by what I found in my research. There's a lot more deliberate practice. I'm using the book Deliberate Practice in Systemic Family Therapy by Dr. Blow, and others. And I'm also in my role plays with students. I now implement a lot more setups where students are paired as clients, they're a couple, they're parent-child dyad. I make sure I have multiple people that the students learn to interact with in the room, because this is like a separate skill, building alliance with multiple people in the room and like maintaining it
Mhm.
while you're talking about all these problematic issues and things. That's a special skill that family therapists have, and I think students need to practice that more.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I guess as you were talking, one question that came to mind, and I don't expect you or anyone have the answer to it, but just what do you think
sure.
about it? What do you think
Yeah.
about with technology and AI? what do you predict about the future of education in MFT field?
Oh my gosh. I have so many thoughts and I would love to know yours because I know that's kind of like one of your niche areas, and your research areas. So I think we're going to see a lot more simulated training, like virtual reality training, mixed reality training. I think that's going to become more of a norm. Right now, it's more of a advanced kind of luxury based, because it's quite expensive, um, option for training. I think that's going to become more of a norm. I'm hoping that um, universities will get to a point, and programs also will get to a point where we have more organized methods of teaching our students to responsibly and ethically use AI. I know a lot of my colleagues are using AI for things like making treatment plans, creating notes for their clients, right? So our students that are now graduating, they're going to encounter that reality of like other colleagues using AI, and they learn, oh my gosh, I don't have to struggle over writing a note anymore after a session, right? I can quickly type some things in and I get a I get a note from my client. So I think we're gonna see a ton of research around using AI for our field in that regard, and like ethically
Yeah.
using AI too. Yeah. What else are you thinking in terms of like AI and technology for our field?
Actually, I don't have data on it, but just from my experience, I think that I'm not sure about undergrad, but for higher ed in general, I feel like
Yeah.
in the next, maybe, I don't know, 5 years or so, there would be more demand for online programs versus in person.
Oh,
That's just my
interesting. Okay.
experience and sense of, how I feel it. Like just look at, like, it's been 1 year, I think, or a little bit more, than we have ChatGPT, and you know how advanced, how it changed over just 1 year. And like nowadays, Elon Musk is talking about putting something like in your brain or stuff like that. So
Right.
it's crazy how fast it is. And just imagine
Yeah.
what happens in the next 5 years. So I think there would be more demand for online programs in general. And then in our field, specifically, as you were talking about it, like more way of creative ways of using AI, and not doing the busy work ourselves. Like AI can do that for us.
Hmm.
But still, like, at this point, still AI does not have critical thinking. So
Right.
that's what we are proud of ourselves at this point. Who knows what happens in 10 years? But yeah, I think that, I guess, a lot of busy work will be done by AI in the next 5 years or so. And then,
Yeah. I'm also wondering about like AI-based therapy. Do you
Mhm.
think that is it possible that part of our work could be replaced by like an AI assistant on some website or something like that? Clients could chat with Cortana, the therapist, and
Yeah.
you know,
Sophia,
what do
that's
you
a very
think?
interesting question.
Yeah.
Because right now we have some AI-based, like, websites, stuff like that, applications that, for example, for your emotions, you type in, you talk with the AI about what are you feeling, and then it asks you
Oh.
some questions, and then give you some self, like, emotion regulation exercises, stuff like that. The ones that I was curious and I tried one or two of them. From my perspective, they're not smart enough at this point, but it's
Mm,
just a matter of time that they have billions and billions of that data, and then they get smarter.
yeah.
So one thing that I'm thinking about, maybe it's the same question when we are talking about teaching, because educators are like, oh, AI is going to replace us. And I think, at least with the data that we have at this point, it's not going to replace us, but it's going, as I mentioned, replace some of the busy work that we do. So as a teacher and as a therapist, I think we should
Mhm.
ask ourselves what I can do that AI cannot do. Like, so if you go to your class, like just very traditional teaching, right? If you go to your class and you talk about one theory, narrative therapy, like AI
Mhm.
can do that as well, right? But if you go there and have some challenging questions, I don't know, even like case examples, AI has that, but you can do role plays, interact. Those are the things that AI cannot do for you. The same thing
Mm.
with therapists, I guess, at this point. I talked.
Yeah, I agree with you. So perhaps what will happen in our field is um, there will be parts of therapy that would be covered through like an AI assistant or an AI software that the clients can access.
Mhm.
Then they can meet with you and discuss further, like how do I take what I discussed with this AI assistant.
Yeah.
How do I take it into the next level in my life? What challenges did I run into while I was conversing with the AI? So it will be kind of us working hand in hand with
Yeah.
AI in
Yeah.
order to assist our clients, and perhaps do the same for our students, huh?
Exactly, yeah. The other thing, and I just mentioned this quickly, that I read on a website that because sometimes you assume that, okay, so it's AI, it's not human beings, so people, they're not comfortable with that. Actually, it shows that some people, they're more comfortable with AI because they know it's not going to judge them with a human being. There's a human being.
Interesting.
So they feel more vulnerable, they can be more vulnerable with the AI versus human beings. So that was very interesting to me. I was like, oh, I guess, yeah, I can understand some part of it. So yeah, look at, we are talking about the future of therapy and education, and this is going to be on YouTube.
So exciting.
So
Yeah.
5 years from now, we can go back and see, yeah, I told you.
We are just sitting here, just predicting the future
Yes,
of our field.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just casually predicting the field
Right.
progress. Yeah.
I know. So thank you so much. And I'm just trying to be mindful of time. I guess my last question is, I'm doing this interview in my role as associate editor of International Systemic Journal of Systemic Therapy. And so
Congrats about that, by the way.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Well deserved. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So what is one maybe piece of advice that you would have for PhD students or even like junior scholars that you want, that they want to conduct research and publish from your experience as an immigrant researcher, teacher,
Oh
therapist?
boy. Okay. I would like to be known as the queen of cold emails in this field. It's my specialty. I will send emails and reach out to anybody. I literally have no kind of feeling of like, oh, what if they don't respond? They will break my heart. No, I will still sleep fine at night. But a lot of people are afraid to reach out. And I think that stands in our way a lot of times. It's like our own fears kind of affecting our outcomes. It's so important to reach out without having an expectation that you're going to receive a response, because a lot of professors or other people in important places where they manage a lot of programs or manage a lot of people, they might not have time to respond to you, and that's okay. But some people will respond. So if you are listening to us and you are a PhD student or a researcher in the beginning of their journey as a researcher, if you're not finding mentorship within your program or even within your department or your university, reach out. Find other people in other universities, send that email, make AI write that email for you too, just to save some time. But put your personal spin into it. Talk about your personal passions. What are you looking for? What would you like to learn about, right? Do they have any resources that they can share for you? Maybe something you're not aware of. I think reaching out without having a set of expectations attached to that outreach is key. I wish I did more of that when I was an international student, because I think my professors meant well, but I don't know that they had enough knowledge, like specialized knowledge, to support an international student along their journey. Yeah.
I always knew that me and you, we are close. I didn't know it was because of this reason. I'm also wise. If you're a queen, I'm wise queen of sending cold emails. And
Oh, really? Oh,
I,
we're
it's
both
the key.
queens.
Like
Yeah,
connection, everything is about connection, and networking is the key in any field. And you need to do the networking. And one way of doing the networking is through emails, right? And I promise you, yes, a lot of times people, they won't, as you mentioned, respond back, or they don't have time. But we also have amazing people in this field who are just like, they have so like a big heart, and they would help you even when they don't know you in person or anything like that. Those were like some of my like amazing experience with my mentors that I found in conferences, or just again like through cold emails.
sure.
It's just a privilege knowing them. So thank you so much for sharing that piece of advice with us. I really appreciate it.
It's my honor. I really enjoyed our conversation today, and I'm so glad you invited me. I'm so proud of you. You're doing amazing things in our field, and I thank you for being my friend and my colleague.
Oh, thank you so much. The same is here. I'm very proud of you and very happy to call you my friend. So thank you, Sophia, and hopefully I'll see you in some other interviews as well in the future.
On our next Zoom, onwards,
Yes.
or maybe in Houston,
Yeah.
if you come later this spring, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Bye.
Bye.